Hello, welcome to Conversations with Yemi and Bimbo Davids. It's such a joy to have you join us for this conversation. I would like to appreciate everyone that has subscribed, that has watched, that has liked, that has commented, and also sent in questions. We hope we've been impactful, insightful to you all these months and seasons of conversations. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Conversations.
So, we're going to be talking about communication and how social media has impacted on our communications in different interactions, relationship, marital, and I'm sure even for work relationships and different interactions. Obviously, we all know that social media has come to stay and it's has impacted on us also positively on our businesses, ministry, personal lives, but also there's a huge impact on communication with couples, married, in even parents, children, and the like. So that's what we're about to talk about, and I'll be posing most of these questions on us as married couples and trusting that will also help people that are struggling with social media and how it's impacted on
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah. Communication, as Bimbo just said, now communication is the lifeblood of any relationship. I think the problem is not just social media. I think it's the phone itself. We've had our own moments because the moment someone is talking to you and you're not looking at the person in the face and you are chatting, it creates a lot of problems. So I think it's a conversation that people need to have, especially couples. And then parenting too. I've had moments when one of our daughters will be asking me a question and I'm responding, and then she will just say, "Daddy,
Yeah,
you're on your phone.
you're not listening.
You're not listening,
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, sorry. And I put the phone aside and attend to her. And I think, it's happening all over the places and people are not talking about it, but it's like a pandemic. And I think if we don't address it now, years to come, it will be a serious problem that maybe people getting married to their phones. We have marriage ceremonies where people will be getting married to their phones. It's kind of bad where someone, because communication expresses how you value someone. Okay, if your wife is talking to you or your husband, if that value is that this is my husband, that is regardless of who, I mean, this is a phone. Regardless of who I'm chatting with, or what I'm doing, if I place that value on my child or my husband or my wife, then I ought to be able to,
Yeah.
put the phone aside to show that I value this person. I think, and the same with our children. Well, nobody prepared for this. We always behave like we've not seen pictures before, especially with the advent of Twitter, Instagram, especially, so we are hooked, whether we like it or not. And the earlier we are kind of aware of that,
Yeah.
the more we can take,
Yeah.
some very important steps to help recover. I think where we are now is more of recovery because it has affected or is affecting relationships. I've had, of course, people come for counseling, and you would think it's just about certain areas, but now this is coming in on the chat box. The things we talk about. Please, Pastor, help me talk to him, to or talk to her, to be to spend little time, little time on the phone. I don't know.
I think the first thing is, oh, like you said, like Pastor said, like my husband just said, um, is about awareness. Some of us are not aware about how much it has affected our lives. And I think it started from the post or the pandemic era and then post pandemic era. For some people, they do business on their phones, their work is on their phones. We all got used to working from home using our devices, iPads, phones especially. So then it became the norm because it wasn't as much before the pandemic, and then pandemic happened and everybody realized that, oh, there's a world out there on my phone and it's not as stressful. Talking to someone personally, you can easily talk to somebody on the phone without emotions being involved. It's a bit more passive, I would say. So I guess that's where it started from. Knowing where it started from is also important. So we realize that it's not that using the phones or is bad in that sense, but we now look at the consequences, not just with relationships, not just the communication, even health wise. So it's even a good background to say, put down your phone at some point. Just let it go. Whether the world has always is there,
Survived.
has always survived. It will keep surviving when the phone is off, and it will continue moving when you're not on social media. So it's just an awareness that, look, this thing is affecting. It's a cycle because sometimes it gets addictive, right? When you're, especially with social media, you have different things that are going on social media, different conversations, different trends that seem exciting. And it's like I said earlier, it seems easier than having a conversation with somebody, then it becomes stressful. There's passion in it, and everybody just gets, what, let me just face my phone in that sense.
Yeah.
But then, when we see that, okay, these are the consequences. The world will go on with or without your phone or your device. Just take that time, just understanding that, like he said, the value. If I value my husband, I should be able to let this thing go and spend quality time, because it's about quality, spending quality time. The reason why I think one-on-one conversations are important is because you look into my eyes, you see the
Expressions.
emotions that I'm exuding and expressing. It just helps with the bond. Even when you have to resolve, you can see that this thing is passionate. This person is passionate about this. So it's just a decision to put down this device for a while and invest quality time with
The person.
the person
You're
in
talking.
your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conversations.
Yeah.
We're zeroing on communication. So before the phone even came, communication was a problem in most marriages, especially from us men. We don't really know how to communicate well, Unfortunately, phone also now showed up. It became like an escape route. But
Yeah.
there are three things I want to, like, when it comes to communicating with people. If there's any area I think there's a deficiency, is listening. So the moment I am talking to you and you are still on your phone, I can't really be persuaded that you are really listening to me. And when you're not listening to me, I feel you don't value me. You understand? You don't value me and that itself begins to hinder the one-on-one communication. So it's a funny cycle. I'm talking to you, you're on your phone, it could be a staff, it could be a colleague, and you're not really attending to me. I don't feel as important to you. When you are now ready for communications, the person might not even be available anymore. So it helps us to listen. Like our daughter said, you're not listening. And I think that is right because you won't be able to grasp what the person is actually telling you. You might assume that I've heard. You have not heard. You've not heard. You didn't really hear, because communication is more than words. So we hear that, well, we know that communication has more than 50% body language. So that body language itself is communicating something, that you are talking to your husband or to your wife, and then he or she is starting and not even, just it comes, excuse me, it comes across to you as, oh, I'm not important to you, or
Yeah.
you're not really listening. So we look at it from the perspective of listening, from the perspective of value. Value. Oh, my daughter needs this moment. Now, if you have to excuse the person to complete a chat, it's still better. Or complete a phone call, it's still better. Give me just 2 minutes. I want to do this. It shows the value you have for that interaction, and this would help any relationship, how much more marriage. I'm saying it again. Body language. When you interact with people, their body language speaks a lot to you. Words, words just comprise of like 7%. That is low. So don't think you're communicating only with words. Your attitude speaks a lot. Your body language speaks a lot. So beyond even the TV, TV, beyond the phones, even TV, or even work. Sometimes we make the mistake of bringing work home, and in a bit to conclude on the work, you don't attend to your kids or to your spouse. It's going to create a gap that sometimes is hard to fill when we really need to. I think conversations today is to help, number one, I think our conversations today is to help with that awareness that this is, believe me, it's a pandemic. I don't know how or whichever other word I can use it, because I've seen people just bend down like this sometimes on their phone for 2 hours. You wouldn't know, just be there talking. Who are you talking to? Sometimes I move to ask her time when she's on the phone. I just want to, I'm always wondering, who is that person, that is that important? Of course, it's work and people. We deal with people all our lives, But there's that trigger, who is that person that is that important, So we need to be aware of that and begin to make some decisions on time, because we can't allow devices to take people from us. I think it's foolishness. I think it's foolishness that you allow a device that you can do without, that you can do with later, to take some very precious relationships from us, especially when it comes to the marital setting, husband, wife, or children. I think that
Yeah, so
helps.
I've spoken and counseled with a few people that I've had these conversations with, and we see situations where people would rather chat or deal with someone on their phone or through their phone than have a conversation because of the conflict that it triggers.
Okay.
So you find a situation where people are saying, "Ah, there's peace in my home, we don't fight, we don't think," and because there's a replacement, something has replaced that
One
one-on-one
on one.
conversation. So you find situations where even for spouses, they rather send messages to themselves with their phones than have a talk because of the conflict it generates. So I think it's also important that while we are talking about this, we also use this opportunity to tell couples especially that conversations may lead to more conflict than you would have maybe sending a chat or a message with to your spouse on your phone, but it's something that we must develop an art of. We must ensure that we understand how, like, my husband said earlier about the art of listening. We need to develop that art of communicating, conversing, because ordinarily it's a human thing that when you feel, look, I don't want fights, I don't want
No,
to.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think it's fine. I think it's fine if our wife or husband can send a message through
yeah,
the
yeah. Now,
phone. It's a
what I'm
beginning.
even saying is that it then becomes a cycle where you are saying that, what, it's easier to do this than to have a one-on-one conversation. But it doesn't mean that it's healthy, because we're talking about healthy communication.
Yeah.
So yeah, you communicate. Yeah, you've passed your message across. Yeah, there were no passions involved. Yeah, there were no emotions involved. But it doesn't mean that you are closer. So we hear that research has said that the young generation are the most depressed than any other generation, even with technology, because they are not talking. I don't know if you saw that video that went around recently about a young boy that saved his colleagues, his fellow students in a bus, not in Nigeria, outside, I think America, because the bus driver had an emergency while he was driving. And the boy saved him, saved the bus, put the bus to stop, and told his friends to call 911. And when they searched, he was the only one without a device. Every
Was
other
attending
child
to, was
who had a
focused
device did not even know
that something
that
was.
something was going on. And then they asked the parents, and parents said, yeah, they're not surprised because he doesn't have a phone.
That's fine.
You know,
That's
so he was more aware of, he was more aware of his, of surroundings. So even with this, it just shows that um without a device, not that we can't use it, but it just makes us more aware of my husband's
my
feelings, my child's feelings. I can see what they're exuding, even though they're saying something, what they're showing, like you said, body language, because you are having a
one-on-one
conversation.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that starts up the conversation.